Brooke is out today. She's got a doctor's appointment. She's pregnant, as you know. So she's got a doctor's appointment. Matthew Rocchio, you know him well. He's not in the bubble today. He's right next to me. Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley and Matthew Rocchio. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Randy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing better than the Cardinal crowds are doing.
There it is.
Yeah. That's 21,206 last night at the ballpark to witness the Cardinals' 5-4 overtime extra inning loss to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Los Angeles, California, USA, world. The Cardinals have to be alarmed here. They knew this was coming, right? They knew that they were going to suffer a big hit in terms of crowd size this year and a revenue hit as well because of what happened last year down the stretch. They were aware of it. But that being said, after the opener, the Saturday game, the Sunday game, the Monday game, all with crowds that appeared to be less than 20,000, even though they listed 30,000 on Saturday, 26,000 on Sunday, and 21,000 last night. Smallest crowd in the history of this Busch Stadium. So is this a trend that the Cardinals should be concerned about?
I think so, just because anytime, I mean, with the way that revenue is in baseball right now, and I think you heard Triple Sticks, Bill DeWitt III, talk about this on opening day in a couple of different interviews where he talked about kind of they've been able to break the economics of baseball as a mid-market team and have success. And part of the reason has been $3 million through the gates.
Yep.
And obviously, a big part of that was also $60 million guaranteed in TV money. But the attendance was a factor. And so I think they're obviously worried about it. I think when you add in the fact that there was so much talk around the team and excitement around the 3-0 start, I think that's why there's so many people who are latching onto this, because we've this is the fourth or fifth time I think they've set this record, an ignominious record
2 years, right?
In the last 2 years of lowest crowd size in Busch 3 history. And so we've had this conversation before, exactly where it's just like, what are we talking about it, and you know what's the issue? So the fact that they're winning and now it's leading into it, I think maybe that's where some of the worry starts getting into. We're going to talk to Brenden Schaeffer coming up at 10:30, and Brenden was tweeting with some people yesterday. It's cold. It's Monday. People are still in school. How much do those things really factor in?
Well, I would like to say that they do, but the fact of the matter is, Matthew, the last time the Cardinals came off of an 83-win season, so we're trying to go apples to apples here, it was 2018, and they had missed the playoffs in 2016 and 2017. Okay, so back-to-back seasons of not making the playoffs. So you start 2018 with, as usual, massive opening day crowd at the ballpark. And that date was for the Cardinals opener in 2018, March 29th. Actually, April 5th, because they started on the road. They went to New York, went to Milwaukee, come home April 5th, and their attendance for the opener, 46,512. Their second game after the off day on Friday, same setup as this year, was 41,113, coming off of an 83-win season, and same weather scenario playing out, same ballpark. Obviously, some different things. The safety of downtown St. Louis is different. It was cold. But I do think, and John Mozeliak mentioned this last year in an interview with Frank Cusimano over at KSDK. He said, I know that the city is fatigued of me. I think that's part of it. But man, like the other day at the Sunday game, there were 6 completely empty sections. And last night it was worse. You can say cold weather last night, but they didn't sell any seats in those sections. If it's too cold, you have people that bought seats in sections that show up, right?
Yeah.
And these are completely empty sections that the Cardinals aren't even selling tickets for. So going back to 2018, coming off of the back-to-back non-playoff seasons, they have 41,000 in their second game of the season. In the third game on a Sunday, where the Cardinals had 26,000 this year, they had 40,468. And then the equivalent of last night, April 9th of 2018, Milwaukee is here, and the Cardinals draw 35,189, rather than last night's 21,206. So the people that supported this, and maybe we just lost a lot of those people to COVID. Maybe that's issue. That's part of the.
That's dark.
No, but it's part of the demographic, right?
Accurate, yeah.
So maybe some of those people were lost. There are a lot of extenuating circumstances that lead me to believe that people are staying away. I think I don't think cold is one of them. I think there are a lot of things that go into it, but I also think post-pandemic, we can talk about this. Post-pandemic, the crowds never really have come back to Busch Stadium.
No, and I think part of that is the start of this apathetic run where I think a lot of fans have questioned what's the long-term goal, where's the heart of this organization kind of thing. I mean, that started in 2019. I think and if you really want to get to like where did it first start seeing the cracks, I think it was 2016. So I think the run of 16 to 20 is important for context as to why it hasn't returned yet, because even with the Goldschmidt and the Arenado, there wasn't this base of winning that was coming out of those moves that I think a lot of people expected. And so I think that's why we've seen it not snap back, or why it's continued in the malaise that I think maybe was starting a little bit before 2020, but was obviously then exacerbated in a big way.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to throw out to people, because I know there are some people who are mad. Let's read Rip It Up cards here. I normally would be at the game last night with my season Bud Pass. I'd want to see Trout for only my second time, potentially also the last time here in Busch Stadium. But they raised the price $10 a month. Yet another tone deafness by the ownership. And so I was getting to something you were going to say, which was people are mad about John Mozeliak. If Chaim Bloom was 100% in control this year, do you think there's a lot? Do you think that would affect a lot of the Mo hatred people to come back already?
I don't know that it would be a huge amount, but I think it'd be an amount. And Rip It Up cards, you're 100% right in that it is tone deaf by the Cardinals. But how much? Like I go in to Mobile on the Run and I spend like $1.50 a day on a drink, right? So that's about $10 a week, and you're being charged an extra $10 a month. I know what you're saying, but for me, that's more of a principle thing. I know for a lot of people, $10 is a big deal, but in the big scheme of things, $10 a month, and it really they shouldn't have done it because it's not a big enough deal for them to be able to generate a ton of money from it. But For me, as a baseball fan, if that was the way I consumed the game at the ballpark, I would continue to buy that. And I do, at the end of the day, and this isn't, obviously, you Rip It Up cards, you go to several games a month. Yeah. And I'm sure that if the team is good, you'll be back. I do think over the years, the fan base has changed in St. Louis. And it's turned from that group that people like Peter Gammons and Tony Gwynn talked about, that they romanticize as the best fans in baseball. I think that we have become, like a lot of other cities, kind of a front-running city. And if the team is good and winning, we'll go. But if the team isn't good and winning, well, it's not worth it, and the owners don't care, so we're not going to show up. Most cities in America are like that.
Yeah, and I think it's less what we would have called it, which was kind of a front-running mindset. I just think that everybody, because of, I'm going to sound so old here, but it's just, I really truly believe it.
You can sound like me.
Short attention span society has created in sports the idea of this all or nothing. Either we won the championship or we failed this season. And I think that comes from the short attention span of why are we not instant gratification in society kind of thing. And so I think that's all. I think, like you said, it's not just a St. Louis issue. Everyone's gotten to the point now where it's like, if we're not winning deep into the playoffs, so we're not winning the championship, we failed. This organization's problematic. I need heads on spikes because we didn't win this year, which means we are not as good as we should.
You sound old.
Thank you very much for that. Eric Cleveland, does the lack of attendance have anything to do with no real superstars anymore, or more of the front office not spending money? I think you could find groups of people in both of those camps. But at the same time, people were rebelling last year, and they had Paul Goldschmidt, who just won, who was an NL MVP, and they had Nolan Arenado, and they still have Nolan Arenado this year. And people don't want to see him.
Yeah, they had made an effort, misguided though it may have been, to fix their starting pitching with Gray, who they spent $75 million over 3 years on, and Lynn and Kyle Gibson. It wasn't like they weren't spending money last year or this year. They're still 17th in payroll at $149 million, which is
higher than their which is pretty much right where their market size is relative.
Their market is. There are teams that are making a lot less than the Cardinals that are doing better than the Cardinals. I want to get to a couple of the baseball aspects of this. Gorman 3 hits and then he sits. The Cardinals were playing a left-hander last night, Tyler Anderson. And generally what you do if you have a left-handed hitter that has struggled historically against left-handed pitching is you do sit him. And Gorman is not a fully baked product yet. He's not where the Cardinals want him to be as a hitter, but when he gets an opportunity against a right-handed hitter, I'd be surprised if he wasn't in the lineup tonight. He will be in there. The other part of it is a lot of people complaining about the Cardinals not hitting Gorman against the right-hander for Winn last night. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. 2 outs, 10th inning, down by a run, home run wins the game for you. I think there's a couple of things that go into this. Number one, I really think I don't think the Cardinals want to take away from the confidence of Masyn Winn. Yes, he's struggling, but I don't think you want to he's a young player. He had a really good year last year. He is your future, and I don't think you want him looking over his shoulder. That's one of the things the Cardinals wanted to do this year is give players an opportunity and not have them looking over their shoulder. The other part of this is that in his previous at-bat, Winn had hit a rocket down the third base line, 107 miles an hour off the bat. And I'm sure that the people in the dugout, Brant Brown, Ollie Marmol, Daniel Descalso, they were thinking, okay, he's found something here. He hit the ball really, really hard. Now, was the last at-bat miserable? Yes, it was. But I can understand why the Cardinals did what they did. And one of the things that we have to come to grips with, and we were talking about this before we came on the air, as a fan base, yes, the Cardinals got off to a 3-0 start. Yes, the Cardinals have some expensive players in Arenado and Contreras and Sonny Gray. But this is still a season of evaluation and preparation for the future. This season is not about trying to win a pennant or a World Series this year. It's trying to find out what happens when Masyn Winn has adversity. A couple of years ago, Jordan Walker faced adversity and they sent him down. They don't want to do that to young players in 2025. That's not their goal. Their goal is to find out who can win for them in the future.
I agree with everything you said. And in fact, let's hear it from the guy who's struggling. This is Masyn Winn in the post game yesterday, talking about his struggles and trying to get back involved, and also some of those hits that he thinks will start, getting through a little bit.
I think last year I probably would have been sulking a little bit, pissed off around everybody, but this year I'm trying to, we got a good team in here. We got good vibes. I'm trying to keep it that way.
Masyn, to your point, what it is about the experience that you had last year that allows you to keep your composure or frustration in check during it's only been 4 games, but during a stretch like this?
Yeah, it's just a long year. I'm going to have stretches where I can't get out. So, and I know that's going to come at some point, but, to dwell on these first 4 games is going to be pretty tough if I'm really down on myself now. We got 158 more left, so, I definitely don't want to take it to heart too much now. Give it a couple weeks. If I'm going off, I'm sure I will. We'll see how it is then. But, as of right now, I'm liking the work that we're putting in the cages. Like I said, I hit a few balls hard tonight. Obviously, the 2 strikeouts suck, but like I said, it's getting close. It's getting close to being something scary. I'm just trying to get back to what I was last year. Yesterday. Yesterday during the rain delay, was it yesterday? Yeah, I went in the cages. We looked at video from last year to this year, tried to make some adjustments while everybody was in here chilling. I was in there swinging, so just trying to get it back right. But yeah, I think within the next couple of days, everything's gonna click. Those 108s are gonna get by guys, and I'm gonna start getting knocks.
So there it is. You heard it from me. Those 108s are going to start getting by, guys. You also talked about, how about the work ethic? Everyone else is chilling out during that 50 minutes, and he's in there looking at tape, probably working with Brant Brown, who everyone else is crediting for fixing their issues like that. He's working in there trying to fix the issues right there in the moment during the delay. Yeah. And credit, by the way, to Channel 4 and Tamar Scher, who had that video from the postgame.
From First Alert 4, one of my other coworkers.
First Alert 4.
Yeah. So good job, Tamar.
She's the best.
But it is, and I looked it up last night because I knew this was going to happen. Albert Pujols had 3 MVP seasons here in St. Louis. In each of those MVP seasons that Albert Pujols had as a member of the Cardinals, he had an 0 for 14.
Yeah, but did he have 7 strikeouts?
I don't know, but 0 for 4. We don't care about how you make outs, right?
That's true. You're right. We don't care about that anymore.
So the fact of the matter is, if this had happened if Masyn Winn were hitting 271 on June 16th and went into the next 4 games and went 0 for 14 and his 271 fell to 265, he's 0 for 14. He'll get a hit tomorrow. Okay. But because it's happening at the first part of the season, it does look worse. And by the way, it's harder to dig out of too when you're in a situation like that. We also get this from Bill Downton. Bill, thank you very much. I'd like to get a bit more context here about Ollie. He said last night he tucked his bullpen. I guess he's saying he sucked. His bullpen choices were terrible. The bullpen after Michaelis came out went 3 1/3 and allowed 1 run.
Well, here's one of Bill's thoughts from earlier in the chat. One of the reasons why he thought that Marmol's issues, by the way, one of the questions on our left side scroll today is, were you miffed by Marmol in this game? I'm going to say Bill was. Helsley should have been saved for the 10th. He is the only best bet for 3 strikeouts.
But you were trying to get to the 10th, and there is no save situation. When you have a tie game heading into the 9th, it's impossible to have a save situation. You're only going to win in a walk-off. So you have. I want to use Helsley, and that was a spot where you can guarantee that you can use Ryan Helsley. He gets you to the 10th, and then with the ghost runner aboard, the Angels scored a couple of runs. And we can talk about the ghost runner. That's not a good thing, but Jojo Romero just didn't he didn't have the 3 strikeouts, but maybe you lose it in the 9th if you plug Romero in the 9th inning. I don't have any problem with using Helsley in the 9th inning like the Cardinals did there.
Yeah, and I know that the numbers aren't the best. I know last year they used him in a couple of those situations, and he wasn't fantastic. But frankly, I think when you look at his light usage in the first series, I completely understand it from that perspective. He's one of your best pitchers. To Bill Downton's point, you're trying to get the game going, you're trying to extend it. You're trying to close things out, get your bats up another time. I understand the rationale because here's the thing.
Using Helsley or
no, for using Helsley in the moment. Because here's the thing: there's a situation where you don't maybe use Helsley for another 2. Like let's say you're up like 5-6-1 again, and now Helsley doesn't pitches once in the first 6 games. I don't think that's a good way for like Helsley's arm to actually start the season. So I actually kind of say pivotal situation. Helsley's only been used once. Go ahead and give him a run out there. I don't hate it. I understand why people are bothered by it. But again, like you said, there isn't going to be a save situation. So you just don't want them to use one of their best pitchers.
Right. And you had the middle of their lineup up for Helsley in the 9th with Soler, Moncada, and Ohapi. So I honestly have zero problem with the way the bullpen was utilized last night. Sometimes it's not going to work. You can make the right move, and it doesn't work. And by the way, Romero, he was just walking guys. But you aren't going to win every game, and not every move is going to work out well. Slim Pickens says these guys are kind of lackeys. Yeah, we understand that the team isn't going to go 162-0. And if that makes me a lackey, that's fine. But I don't think the Cardinals, number one, again, I'll tell you that what we have been told throughout the offseason, and early in the season, this is an evaluation year. It's not a year where the Cardinals are planning to beat the Dodgers and go to the World Series and beat the Yankees in the World Series. It's just not.
Eric, no, he didn't compare Winn to Pujols. He said is that even in great seasons, you have 0-14 runs. To that point, can anyone here off the top of their head, without diving into Baseball Reference, point out the 0-14 run that Masyn Winn had last year? Because he had one. Find it. Point it out to me. Off the top of your head, point out. If you get within a week, I will Venmo you $5. But you can't use Baseball Reference.
But they're going to check Baseball Reference.
Of course they are. That's why I'm not Venmoing anybody $5, because they're going to check Baseball Reference. But no one could do it. And that's the point of the statement. He's not comparing with Bulls. It's that in the totality of 162 games, which, by the way, you heard from Masyn Winn himself. If you don't need Randy to say it, you can hear the actual Major League Baseball player pointed out. It's 162 games. In the totality of the season, this will most likely mean nothing. It's just that for the next month, now he's going to be climbing up from an 0.92 batting average to a 143 batting average to a 196 batting average to a 212. Like, it's going to be this annoying thing that we're going to have to talk about, because instead of, to Randy's point, it dropping your batting average from 265 to 259, we're gonna have to see this just caterpillar climb up for Masyn Winn. We're gonna have to do this the entire first month of the season now.
And Eric, I really apologize for not making that more clear.
Come on.
When I said that in 3 seasons in which Albert Pujols won the MVP, and I will qualify it this time. In 3 seasons in which Albert Pujols won the MVP, he went 0-14 in each of those seasons. My point was that even the greatest players in the history of the game have 0 for 14 skids. Now, the qualifier. I'm not comparing Masyn Winn to Albert Pujols here. I'm trying to make the point that pretty much every player in the history of baseball, even the best guy that we have ever seen with our eyes, had 0 for 14.
Yeah.
I hope that clarifies a little bit, and I really apologize that you didn't understand.
Well, Pujols didn't have his arm. Jay Lee got in early on the chat here, and of course, thank you to everyone for jumping in on the chat here on the YouTube. Jay Lee, Alvarado and Marmol cannot put Jojo Romero in relief when one or more runners are on base. The other teams will score no matter what. Jojo Romero doesn't have that dominating skill for extra inning situations.
So I'd like to know, Jay, who was your guy?
That is a split we can look up, though.
Yeah, and this is not an affront at all. I just want to know, who would you have started in the 10th?
I'll see if
and they had guys there. It wasn't like,
I'll see if Jay's in the live chat.
Yeah, because I think that it's, you have to, you have guys on your team to use them. I don't think Romero is the guy that is their 7 up, 7 down guy. Tony always talked about, if you're 7 runs up or 7 runs down, that's the guy that you use. So at some point you have to use Romero, and I would just like to know, because there were other options down there, right? They still had a reliever left. They had let me get to.
We got 2 guys. By the way, we got 2 guesses while you're looking. Giovanni Laurenti said, I think his slump was the first or second week of July. Well, that was not a hitting run necessarily for Masyn Winn. That was not his over 14 run through 4 games. It was also not August 2nd through August 9th. Number 1 Blues fan said, it's just my birthday, so I took a shot at free $5. Hey, happy birthday to number 1 Blues fan. Hope the Blues give you the exact present you should get, which is number 10 and a goal for Jimmy Snuggerud on the debut.
Oh yeah, nice. Okay, so
what are you looking for again?
You had John King available. Matt's was not available because he'd thrown 4 innings the day before. So Matt's, Romero. So you had Matt's down there, and then you had one other right-hander. Am I correct about this? Who am I missing here that they could have?
Yeah, you only have one other right-hander.
Yeah,
because they have so many damn lefties.
Yeah. So I don't know that there was a play for you, another play besides Romero for you. There might have been, but you know what? It's at some point you have to pitch Romero. Let me see who.
Slim Pickens jumped in here a little bit earlier. We were talking about the attendance. Slim Pickens, our time's not tough for a lot of people. Why support them to the level of going to the game if we were already struggling for a normal life? Also, we had Ripping Up Cards. I have no issue paying $10 more, but now is not the time. Wait 2 years till the team advances. And
Kyle Leahy was the other guy, by the way. You could have started Kyle Leahy in the 10th. And if the Angels would have scored 2 runs, then you would have been complaining that he was in the game and Romero wasn't.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. That's fair. If you want to dive that deep into it, that's fine. That's fine. I get the attendance things for a lot of people here, and you guys are doing a great job in the chat. I'm just trying to get you to a lot of them. Landon Jackson talking a lot about Marmol here. I'd like to hear the chat's thoughts on this, and trust me, Landon, we'll get to some of these because we're getting thoughts from the chat. I've been, like most fans, have been hard on Marmol so far this time, but in 4 games this season, I think he's done very well. Thoughts, and then you get Bill Downton last night. Sucked. His bullpen choices were terrible. I want to focus more on your thoughts on the decision on Herrera and what you think maybe some of the contributing factors that maybe are beyond just simply offense and defense.
Okay, so you take Herrera out after the 7th. Am I correct about that? Or after Michaelis had come out after the 6th.
Yes.
So you put Pages in. One thing you hear about with people that have pitched before around that ballpark is that Herrera is not the best at calling pitches, that he's not the best at managing a game. Now you have a veteran starting pitcher like Miles Michaelis, who generally calls his own game. But then when Michaelis comes out, you're bringing Roycroft, rather inexperienced, Fernandez, rather inexperienced, into the game. And you might want a guy who has a little bit more of a command of calling pitches, of managing a game. Pages does have more of that than Herrera does. I believe that's probably why, and I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, but if I had to guess, I would say that the reason that the move was made from Herrera to Pages at that point is because they wanted Pages to manage the game and call the game in a better vein than Herrera would for the young pitchers Roycroft and Fernandez. That'd be my guess. Well, Fernandez, and then you brought Maton in, and Maton apparently had trouble with the pitch comm the other day, and so Pages is calling pitches for him. Helsley, it doesn't really matter. Helsley's just going to do his thing. But I think it was probably because you knew you were going to bring in a young pitcher like Fernandez, and wanted a more stable presence back behind the plate.
Yeah, that move makes sense. I think we're going to have to deal with the pick your poison, push and pull of this season's lineup construction, which is you have guys who, one way to have backups essentially in sports, in my opinion, is you either have a guy who gives you a completely different look, or you have a guy who you can run everything the same way through them because they're the exact same player. Like those are the two options you have. And I think the Cardinals this year have a lot more of the first one, which is you get guys who are just going to give you different things, other than probably, I guess, Michael Ciani and Victor Scott in center field. They're both going to give you pretty good defense. But other than that, we're going to get such different hot and cold, apples and oranges kind of things from these different lineups. I think we're going to have a lot of these discussions where it's a decision happens in the 6th or 7th inning, and Marmol's plan is A, B, or C happen. This guy's there for it, but then D happens because that's how baseball works.
And sometimes a manager can't win, because we got one text that complained about Gorman not hitting on last night when he had gone 3 for 4 the day before, and Pages had gone 3 for 4 the day before, and we're complaining about him coming into the game.
And damned if you do, damned if you don't. We got a really good run here from Slim Pickens comment. Asher McGuire, I could care less about attending another Cardinals game in my life. Busch is a boring atmosphere compared to almost every other MLB park. It's just boring. Jay Renegade rides. That's a valid concern, talking about Slim Pickens and the just way that the world is right now. It's a valid concern. Baseball is supposed to be a cheap, affordable entertainment option for every person. If it's cheap enough, then you don't have problems selling seats, in my opinion. Joe also agreed with Slim Pickens. Inflation has hurt a lot of people. Discretionary income is hard to come by for a lot of folks. We went to the game on Sunday. Great game, small crowd. And I do think we are, there. Talk to a lot of people, and there are indicators in different sectors of the economy that say people are pulling back on the kind of spending they usually start pulling back on first.
Yeah, eggs used to be $1.30 a dozen, and now they're like $6 a dozen or $7 a dozen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People need their eggs.
Other numbers, kind of in society are going up, and that means that then they're usual indicators of people pulling back money from other things.
By the way, I think cars will get more expensive today.
That's another one. Oh, interesting. Okay, are we just doing April Fools now, or
no?
Oh, okay.
No, this is real. This is real.
Landon Jackson, Asher, that's just wrong. Talking about the comment about Busch Stadium being boring. I've been to half of the stadiums in Major League Baseball, and Busch is top 3 at worst out of the 15, and top 3 at worst out of the 15 that I've been to. I think Busch Stadium is a great atmosphere because I think it does a good job of actually facilitating the social aspect of baseball, which I think is one of the best things baseball has going for it. Am I wrong?
No, it does. And the Cardinals did a great job over the years of making it an event, of making Cardinal baseball something where you went to work the next morning and said, hey, I was at the Cardinal game last night. Were you? But because of the loss of winning big and star power, I don't believe it is the thing it was. And going back to, was it Rip It Up Cards, who was talking about the price of the ballpark pass? Another thing that happened last year, and I was shocked by this, and you, I think, were the first to tell me about it. When they got rid of the Bowtie Bar and built the 703 Club and got rid of the $5 beers at the Bowtie Bar, a lot of people were really offended by that. Well, now they have the $5 beers back, but sometimes you lose something and it's really difficult to get it back. And those people that would come down just to hang out, meet at the Bowtie Bar, and enjoy their $5 beers, they lost those people last year. That's, might not be a massive group of people, but all it takes is 20 or 30 here, 20 or 30 there, and it winds up adding up. And then you have the fact that last year they were coming off the 71 win season. I will not argue that the sport, and this isn't a Cardinal thing necessarily, the sport has become or had become boring. And then the cost of attending a baseball game, in addition to the cost of living life, there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, you don't go from 40,000 a game to 20,000 a game without there being some extenuating circumstances. And I don't think it all has to do with the quality of the team that's being put on the field. I think there's a lot of other things that do go into it.
You guys are absolutely killing it in the chat. We so many left to get to. Brenden Schaeffer will be joining us here momentarily to talk about that Cards game, diving into all the topics that we've been touching on today. So we have so many chats to get to. We'll be getting to them later on in the show. Let's turn to the percentage of ticket sales not being used is what's more concerning. 21,000 last night, may have been actually 15,000 in the seats. That's a lot of lost revenue on concession sales. People are paying to not go.
Well, I think the people that are paying to not go, the people that are taking a bath are the brokers. The people that are buying season tickets thinking they'll be able to turn them around on a secondary market, and then they don't sell there. I think those people are taking a bath. I don't think there's as many people that are buying tickets and not going and there are some, and I'll tell you a story in a moment, but I think there's also a lot of brokers that are taking a bath because of their association with the Cardinals over the years. I knew a couple who had season tickets from the mid 80s up until the last couple of years. And the gentleman, the couple of gentlemen died last June. But as they got older, they kept buying the season tickets, but because of the safety issues of downtown St. Louis, they would only go to day games. They never went to night games. Even though they bought all 81, they only went to weekend day games or the businessmen's and women's specials on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So I think that's happening a lot. Yeah, that people are avoiding downtown, and it's not people that are buying tickets, not using them. I think another big part of this, whether it's reality, is the safety of downtown St. Louis, whether it's having your car broken into or getting mugged or something like that. That's an issue that has to be solved.
All right, Randy, before we get to our guest, Brenden Schaeffer, you can hear Brenden Schaeffer sometimes when he jumps on the Cards Hub 365, which, by the way, you can hear every day for the Cards game. And that's not all. We also have Cards Hub's post games after the Cards game every game.
And we did have the text, if we can put that up there, and we're going to get Brenden Schaeffer back. We'll get him up and going here. But I get why people are upset. And I understand why we're getting the text, the
so many
chats
texts
that we are. And all it takes is one loss. I mean, you start off 3-0. We would be all sunshine lollipops if the Cardinals had not gone 2 of 12 was it 2 of 12 or 2 of 10 with runners in scoring position last night? We would be happy campers if the Cardinals had done a better job with runners in scoring position. They would have won it in regulation. Helsley would have got a save. The bullpen usage would have been brilliant. Everything would have been cool. All we needed was one hit with a runner in scoring position that we didn't get.
But none of that happened, and that's why we have to bring on Brenden Schaeffer to talk about all those things that did not go correct yesterday. Brenden, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, sure. Make me the bad guy. Yeah, come on in and talk about the failure. I see how it goes.
Well, I mean, fine. What positives from yesterday's games do you have to talk about, Brenden? Let's, prove me wrong.
Joe Roderick would say I'm the eternal optimist, and so I could come on and talk about a solid outing from Michaelis. I could talk about left-handed homers off of left-handed pitchers by Nootbaar and Donovan. Yeah, I could find some sunshine if you're looking for that. But I imagine a lot of the comments today are upset with the way that the game ended up because the result is what counts. And there were opportunities for the Cardinals to win that game last night, boys, and they just didn't quite get it done.
Yeah, 2 of 10 with runners in scoring position. There's another thing. They got players to the plate 10 different times with runners in scoring position. I want to go back to the Michaelis thing because we've kind of overlooked that. Gray, solid in his first start. Betty, solid in his first start. And then Palante, solid in his first start. Followed up by Matz, by the way, who's the 6th starter. And now Michaelis. So 4 guys, 4 starts, and 4 early in the season, pretty solid performances.
Yeah, I mean, 5 1/3 innings, allowing just 2 runs for Michaelis. I think you'll take that every time out because if we're honest about it, he's more like the back-end starter in this rotation. He had an ERA near 5.5 last year, and so if you can get those types of outings from Michaelis more frequently, you'll certainly take them. Still, you can nitpick and say, the walks are going to kill a guy like Miles Michaelis, where he only gave up 2, but both of them ended up coming back around to score against him. So you're trying to limit the damage. With 2 strikes has been obviously a area of concern for Michaelis over the past couple of years, and was maybe a little better in that category yesterday, but the walks ended up coming back get him. But yeah, more than anything, I think you're pleased with what we've seen the first turn through, and of course that wraps up tonight with Liberatore, and that's a guy that they're very eager to see. So the rotation, I don't think you can really have too many complaints about the way it's gone so far. It's just about getting enough, as you mentioned, Randy, timely hitting to be able to turn those quality outings into wins for your team.
I'll be interested to see what Miles Michaelis's approach does for him. He's trying to stay out of the strike zone more, try to get a little bit more swing and miss. And by the way, that didn't work very well last night. But in 4 of his 6 seasons with the Cardinals where he has pitched, he's been in the top 3 in hits allowed. 2 years where he allowed the most hits in the major leagues. So he doesn't want people to get the bat on the ball as much. But I don't know, Brenden, if he has that kind of stuff. It seems to me that if he's going to be out of the strike zone, that's going to be recognized, and people aren't going to really offer it at his stuff. Do you feel that way?
Who's Brenden?
Sorry, guys, it cut out for a minute. If you still have me, I can roll with you. Okay.
Yeah.
So with Michaelis, I agree with you, Randy. Like, I think grit and guile are going to be the words, kind of like end stage Adam Wainwright, where you sort of know what's coming. You kind of know the velocity at which it's coming, and you just have to try to get the soft contact. Like, Michaelis suddenly turning into a big swing and miss guy doesn't feel particularly likely at this stage of his career. And there are going to have to be times where he's very careful with location, because you don't want to be too far off the plate, because like you said, the batters will recognize that, but you don't want to be throwing, serving up meatballs down the middle of the plate with 2 strikes after you've earned your way into a pitcher's count. It's a kind of a tricky situation, but if Michaelis can have, 20 starts like last night, and then he'll have a handful where the batters are right on his stuff and he'll get hit around. And then there'll be those handful throughout a season where Miles Michaelis can, just be masterful and get you through 6, 7, 8 innings, as we've seen him do at times. The end of the season numbers are going to be an ERA of around 4 if you pile it up that way. And I think the Cardinals would be more than happy with that from Miles Michaelis. Again, he doesn't have to be an all-star. He doesn't have to be your number 1 in the rotation or a guy that you're eager to throw out there in a playoff series. I think he just needs to be able to give you those 5+ 6 innings every time out. 5 days from now, he'll do it again. And you kind of let the chips fall where they may. The Cardinals can live with that as long as the other guys in the rotation provide a little more upside, like we saw from a Fetty, and you're certainly hoping to get from a Sonny Gray.
Brenden, we heard we played Wynn's comments from the post game and kind of his view of the long arc of the season, but obviously the 0-14 start, the struggles with Masyn Winn. Are you getting worried about this start, or you just think it's just, if this happened in any other part of the season, we wouldn't be talking about this, and this is just a flash in the pan? Masyn Winn is going to work through this, and the underlying exit velocity numbers are really encouraging, and therefore that's what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly concerned about either Winn or Contreras, certainly. I already some people saying, you got to move Contreras down in the lineup. I think he's going to be just fine where he's at. And Masyn Winn's already at the bottom of the lineup. So if you're getting Gold Glove caliber defense and a guy with maybe he settles in as a 85 OPS plus, he's below average offensively, but he's your number 9 hitter. He can steal you base when he gets on and maybe regresses a little bit compared to last year's numbers. That sophomore slump is a real thing, and he's going to have to make those adjustments back to the league. But no, I'm not overly concerned. And look, there's not another shortstop on this roster, and that is by design. The Cardinals intend for Masyn Winn to be the guy, whether it's 162 days or not. It's going to be most of them. And I think that's your guy you're going to ride with. And I think you saw that last night with some conversation. Well, maybe you go with Gorman there for a late pinch hit opportunity. Ollie Marmol says my guy in that spot's Masyn Winn, and I think that's indicative of how the Cardinals feel about where he's at. And yeah, he's going to come out of it. But if he's below average offensively, and he's maybe the only guy in the lineup who's a below 100 OPS plus at the end of the season, but he's at 90, I think the Cardinals are going to be more than okay with the role that he fills.
But some breaking news, by the way, while we have Brenden Schaeffer on. Now, it is April 1st, but I don't think this is us getting April fooled here. Derek Gould and the rest of the baseball world tweeting out that Lance Lynn just announced his retirement on his wife's podcast, Diamond in the Rough. Apparently Lance Lynn has wrapped it up, finishing with a 3.74 career ERA and 33 F WAR. So Lance Lynn, 13 seasons in the big leagues, wrapping up the former Cardinals pitcher. How How about that?
Gosh, I hope that's an April Fool's. That would be a really funny Lance Lynn move to
do it, and for him and his wife to come together and do it on our podcast. So maybe get some bump up from Foul Territory and all these guys.
And there have been reports during the offseason that teams had approached him about being a closer. Obviously, those didn't come to fruition. And with the knees, and I don't really think that. I think the only team he would have come back to last year was the Cardinals. I think he was kind of done pitching in Major League Baseball unless somebody blew him away with an offer. So good for him, and a good career for Lance Lynn, and he got that World Series ring.
He did. And from 11 to 17 was really good with the Cardinals, and kind of this ends up being the swan song last year, where, by the way, he was really good with the Cardinals. 3.84 ERA, gave him more than he had, honestly, with the injuries that he was dealing with toward the end of the year. He kind of got that send-off where he gritted out one more really good start, and that was going to be the end of it. Goes back on the IL after that. Let me pose it to you guys. Question mark, red jacket, Lance Lynn. What do we think? He is kind of a fan favorite, but Randy, this is maybe more your jurisdiction. I'm curious for your thoughts.
That's a great one. He had a really good career.
So his St. Louis career is,
I think it's borderline.
79 wins across 7 seasons, 184 starts, 1,000 innings.
Bunch of strikeouts.
1,000 innings, 1,000 strikeouts, pretty much. Almost 8.4 strikeouts per 9 across his Cardinals career. So
that's some good clubs.
Those are the numbers.
If he were to get on a ballot, I would say it would be interesting because I think the fans really like him. But that's maybe, a conversation for another day. But it was the first thing that jumped to my mind. I think was, last year didn't go quite the way Cardinals fans wanted, and the team wanted to be able to add guys like him and vault into the playoffs, and they came up a little bit short of that. But I think Lynn was a pretty instrumental part in kind of building up the culture from where they were last year, and you'd like to think there's still some remnants of the influence that he left behind on this year's club.
Okay, I want to do a comparison here. You said 7 years, right?
Yes.
What was his Cardinal win-loss record?
His Cardinal win-loss record was 79-51.
Steve Carlton was 77-62. His earned run average with the Cardinals
was a 3.43.
Carlton 3.10. His innings pitched in those 7 years?
1,095.
Carlton 1,265. And then strikeouts?
1,028.
Carlton 951. And Carlton's on the ballot this year.
If Lynn gets on a ballot, there could be interesting. That's my only thought, because fans really do like the guy, and rightfully so. I think he's been a really good, solid Cardinal over the years and a good personality too.
I think if Steve Carlton gets in as a Cardinal Hall of Famer, it'll be because of what he did with Philadelphia.
That's partially correct, right? He ends up being a great player, and people then are fondly remembering, he was a Cardinal too. We want to give him his credit. I think that's a fair call.
I don't know if 5 straight double-digit win seasons, including an 18-win year in 2012. Yep. I mean, I just wonder if 18, 15, 15, 12, 11 in his Cardinals career in those first in those middle 5 years, obviously his rookie season in 11 and then 2024.
And Carlton's last 5 double-digit win seasons.
Yes. Okay. So I just wonder how many guys, just relative to the other Cardinals who have been on the ballot and who have been voted in, if that 5 straight double digit has anything, especially over the last 30 years. Obviously, the pitchers before 1980 are gonna run pretty high win totals most of the time. But still, I think that's a good one, Brenden. I was very dismissive as you were saying it, but as soon as we run through the numbers and Steve Carlton being an interesting comparison, I think that could be live. Like you said, he's a fan favorite.
And here's one, maybe the only Cardinal. Maybe Randy would have some insight on this. The only Cardinal where he gets to the pitcher's mound to come into a game and his manager asks what he's doing here.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing
the only
here?
one ever. So that's part of it. I would think that Tony's on that red ribbon committee. I would think Tony would be an advocate of Lance Lynn.
GB here on the chat says no red jacket for Lynn. No way. Jeff Katubi joking around, but if Lance Lynn was nice to the media, he'd be in. We also is Lance Lynn better than Matt Morris?
No, Matt Morris is way better. And I just checked that. And Morris is in. Morris won more than 100 games, 101 and 62. All of his numbers across the board are better than Lance Lynn's.
Yeah, NY comes in and says if Carlton and Morris are in, Lynn definitely is. So he's both of them going back to the Carlton and Matt Morris comparisons, ripping up Cardinals. Now we're into this area, Brenden, where as soon as a former Cardinal retires, it's just, can we make him a coach? Lynn should be an instructor in the Cardinals system now. If we can't have Carpenter, Lynn is the man I want teaching our young pitchers attitude.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't see that coming right away. It's a thought.
I don't either. By the way, Morris in his Cardinal career, 101-62 with a 3.61, and obviously has the World Series pedigree too that benefits him, and 986 strikeouts in almost 1,400 innings.
So Lynn, a bigger strikeout guy, a bigger Ks per 9, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's somewhat interesting for whenever that day comes. But congrats to Lance Lynn, bottom line, on a really strong career. Yeah.
What did you got on this one, Brenden? Obviously, we talked about at the start, the wrapping up of the first run through the rotation. Your expectations for Matthew Liberatore in his first start of the season?
I expect he'll go out and do what he needs to do, what the Cardinals want to see him do, which is attack. Be in that attack mode the whole way through, not just the first inning, not just the first time through the order. I think he can get you through 5+. And look, he's been really efficient when he's in that attack mode, so maybe that's even underselling what we could see from him. But this is an opportunity that is, I think, pretty meaningful, because with where the Cardinals are as an organization, you do think a little bit more about the context of 2026 with some of the moves that are made this year. And Matthew Liberatore has wanted to be a starter. And as John Mozeliak talked about, if you try to kick that can down the road one more year, it just may never come to fruition. He kind of gets bottled into a bullpen role, which a lot of fans have seen. He's been very successful in that role. But I've always said, and it goes back to when Carlos Martinez was kind of in that tweener phase, I think a valuable, strong starting pitcher is always going to be more valuable to an organization than the same caliber of relief. And so this is a good opportunity and timing for the Cardinals to get a look at Liberatore maybe one last time in this role and give him some run early in the season. And if it goes well, kind of like they did with Palante from last year to this year, you may answer a question about your 2026 rotation without having to go out and get anybody if Matthew Liberatore can answer that for you.
100% agree. And they need to give him a dozen starts in a row where it's not choppy and he's not relieving one night and starting in an emergency scenario the next night. And the guy's only made 24 major league starts, and most of those have not been with 4 days off, you go, 4 days off, you go. Most of those have been as a spot starter where he hasn't had an awful lot of opportunity to really get into a groove as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, and they are giving him that runway this year and bending over backwards to do it. Like, Steven Matz had a solid spring, guys, and they said it's more important to make sure that we prioritize exactly what Randy is talking about, that consistent run of starts in a row for Matthew Liberatore, which meant, Steven Matz, you're the one that actually has to be flexible to begin this season. I credit the Cardinals for doing what kind of seemed like an unorthodox move at first, but now it's going to set Liberatore up for exactly that. We're going to be able to say, all right, did it work over his dozen starts or whatever it ends up being? Can he be viable as a starter long-term when you set the path for him rather than asking him to do a bunch of different things as he has in past seasons?
All right, Brenden, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, people can find your work on sportshubstl.com. They can follow you at bschaeffer12, Schaeffer, SCHAEFFER. It's right there at the top of your screen right now. You can follow that, bschaeffer12. How else can people listen to you and read you?
Well, I'll be everywhere. I'll be all over the Cards Hub stuff. I'll be all over the post game shows. I'll be on Cards Hub this afternoon in just a couple of hours, seeing if we get some insights into what we could see tonight. The big battle. It's Kyle Hendricks v. Brant Brown. I can't wait to see the way the main event shakes out. We know the history with Hendricks against the Cardinals, so it'll be just constant every day for Sports Hub STL as we get this going, covering this season for everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Brenden.
Peace.
We do appreciate it. And, oh, by the way, we need you to know that DraftKings is now here with you, and the crown is yours with DraftKings. And I've been using it the last few days, and it's so much fun. If you're ready to win real money and you're struggling to choose which team will pull an upset, go to DraftKings and forget about the teams. All you need to focus on are player stats to rack up big cash prizes with DraftKings Pick 6. And when it comes to massive payouts, DraftKings dunks all over the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. Track your picks for a shot to win huge cash prizes. It's as simple as that. And I tried to get that home run from I was trying to will a home run from Wilson Contreras last night after I got my strikeouts from Jordan Hicks. It didn't work out, but I'll be back at it today. You can turn your college basketball knowledge into cash today. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
There it is, DraftKings.com. Obviously, check them out. The crown is yours. Obviously, proud sponsor here on Sports Hub STL. Randy, we just got so many chats, so I wanted to just double back and hit a couple of them because, again, you guys have been absolutely killing it today. Really too many to get to with Brooke out today. I've been trying to monitor both the chats and talk, and it's been pretty tricky here. Ripping up cards, always consistent here in the chat. So let's get to another one here. Randy, that's the issue. You're saying this year is to plan for the future, but the Cardinals are saying they want to be competitive and are playing an old, but pitching well rotation. There's no clear message. And I think that has been consistent from the get-go. And I guess even with Arenado's success in the lineup so far, people still aren't okay with it.
Well, the problem is that they're kind of boxed in by the contracts here. If the Cardinals had their way, I think they would have traded Sonny Gray. I don't think they expected Sonny Gray to stay. I think that they fully expected that they would be able to move him. You're right. The position players and the pitchers are not on the same trajectory. And the Cardinals not only had him traded to Houston, and he turned it down, but according to Bob Nightingale at USA Today, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but the Red Sox were deep in negotiations. And then, according to Nightingale, Bregman basically fell into their laps. But they were ready to pull the trigger on an Arenado deal then, which would have allowed the Cardinals to play Gorman at third. Then you can DH, Burleson, and you would have had a much easier time in getting everybody at bats that you want to get them. And at some point during this season, we're going to see McGreevy here. We're going to see Matthews here. But you're right. But trust me when I say the objective for this year is for the Cardinals to observe and develop and evaluate their young position players. Nootbaar, Scott, Walker, Winn, Donovan, Gorman, Burleson, Pages, Herrera. That's what the goal of this season is. And anybody who tells you it's about winning, sure, the players, they go out on the field every day with the hope of winning. The manager puts a lineup together with the hope of winning. There's no doubt about that. But from an organizational, overarching standpoint, the goal of this year is not to win a World Series, but it's to find out about young players. Trust me on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you saw that even with, I think they kind of bit the bullet on the Burleson and Gorman factor. And they said, we have to maybe roll with the guy who's showing us a little bit more right now in the moment. And it surprised me. And we didn't think they would do that, but it almost gave me a little bit more hope that they're committed deep to this long-term thing in a lot of ways.
And the only thing with Gorman right now, he's close, but he's not where he or they want him to be. He kind of so here's what happened with Nolan Gorman. From what I understand, he had his own personal hitting coach that was really a big launch angle guy and wanted him to swing for a home run every single time. And Gorman spent most of the offseason literally with Brant Brown. Gorman's got a cage in his backyard in Arizona, and Brown was over there almost every day. As a matter of fact, Gorman said towards the beginning of spring training, he said, if anybody tells you, said this to Tamar Scher down in Florida, if anybody tells you that they spent the most time with Brant Brown, I don't know who it is, because I was spending every day with him. And so he's been working really hard on refining his swing and getting it back to, when Brant Brown talks about being a hitter rather than a slugger, Gorman is working on, and these are massive changes, becoming a hitter rather than a slugger. And he's making progress, but he's not quite there yet. But they still think, because of what we talk about a lot here, the way the ball comes off of his bat, that he can be a really good hitter. So it's just a matter of patience with him and with them and with us to wait until he's marinated and he's ready to go.
We get Jeff here saying they showed their true colors. They aren't good. What we saw last night will be the norm.
Well, I'm telling you.
Here's the thing, though, Randy. Well, now hold on a second. Will you be okay with this if this is the norm? Lars Nootbaar hit another home run. He also was walked twice.
What's he hitting?
He's hitting .462 with an OBP of .632 and a slugging of .923, which means his OPS is 1.56 something.
I'll take it.
1.55.
Yep.
My bad. Lucan Baker got a DH start and went 2 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Donovan hit a home run. Jordan Walker went 2 for 4. Victor Scott went 2 for 3. Did anyone steal any bases? No stolen bases yesterday. Miles Michaelis gave you 5 1/3 with 2 hits and 2 earned runs. The bullpen, for the most part, as you pointed out at the very start of the show, pretty solid overall, considering what they had to cover. Yeah, they lost 5-4 in a rough game. But if you take like almost everything I just said and you sprinkle it throughout most games this season, I'll take that.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Sounds
I
good.
mean, Jeff, we love you, but what about the first 3 games?
Come on.
Is last night does that define the Cardinals, or does the 9-2 win on Sunday more define the Cardinals? I can't pick and choose, but I'll tell you this: I'm going to go big sample size. I'm going to say the Cardinals are going to play 750 ball this year. How about that?
There you go. I like that one. Barry 7676. You know, if DeWitt III would publicly apologize for what he said last year, it would go a long way to putting people in the seats. I get, and I assume he's talking about the attendance is down and therefore we can't spend as much comments, but like they're a fact. Like that's fact.
Business. That's why he and I were out on the street.
That's a fact. It's like it's just. I like when they're honest with us. I like when they say this is why we're not spending money, because this amount of money is no longer coming in. I like when there is transparency. I think fans should appreciate that. Covering every sport is better when the information you want to talk about and you want to break down is actually in front of you, and we have it now.
Yeah, and
thank you.
I want to add a couple of things to this. Number one, Bill DeWitt Jr., the day the Cardinals acquired Larry Walker, and they had the press conference for Larry Walker, he said, the reason we can do this is because of our great fans and the ticket revenue we're able to generate. It's no different. All right. You didn't get upset when they said the reason that we can do this is because we have people buying tickets. So why get upset when they say the reason we can't do this is because we don't have the revenue? It's the exact same thing. They're saying we can do it because we have the money, or we can't do it because we don't have the money. And one other point, and if you can weigh in here on the chat line and give me an example of a business that spends more than it takes in and is successful, I'd like to know about it. If you can give me the name of that business that spends more than it takes in, not the federal government, and is still successful, I would like to know the name of the company. How do you go about sustaining business?
Barry says he called the fans childish.
Well, yeah, okay.
Again, we were crucifying the guy for being actually, just point out facts.
Yeah. Ellipsis, thank you very much. Not that the government is highly successful, but they do spend more than they take in. But
they're also not supposed to earn profits.
Privately, they
not why they're
are.
there.
But privately or publicly held business where they're spending more when they're taking in less. I just am not seeing it on a regular basis.
Deep voice dude, I think 80% of the people in the market don't even know who DeWitt is. Their decision to not go to the games has nothing to do with them. I think 80% might be a little high because, like, you're right, 80% might not know who he is, but there's a lot of people who are still okay with having the ethereal, unnamed owner be the bad guy that is stopping them from going to baseball games. And I do think that is, I don't think that's nothing.
This one, by the way, from Eric Cleveland. Randy, do we know that they're taking in less than they're spending? We know that they're taking in less than they took in before. That's the key, is that their revenues, and it's roughly 40 million, because we know that it's about 18 million in TV money, and more than that, their projection, and they've told people that they're going to lose more in ticket revenue this year than TV money. So it's about $40 million that they had to spend last year that they don't have this year. And these people, you don't become a billionaire by spending more than you're taking in. So to say that they're actually losing money, no, I'm not going to go that far. But I am going to say that the revenues are down, and that's pretty clear when you look at the size of the crowds compared to what they were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we know about the TV situation.
Now in the lose, he'll just hit a double off the wall every once in a while. He really gets me. Rather than hire a real artist, DeWitt III painted one himself for Wayno. Wow, how cheap can you get?
It's true. You're not wrong.
That's such. I love that. That is like. Now I'm going to Lou. Such a perfect comment because it's the most message board comment that we've gotten today, which is just like the most unhinged, zero logic, just like reactionary thing in the world. And that right there is why the internet is a good thing, because there are people in the world who made that comment with a straight face when it happened, and I'm so happy those people exist.
Never make a gift for someone again, sir. Namel in the Lou. Never make a heartfelt, built by yourself, made by yourself.
Papa Nanu, here's my macaroni art. Get out of here.
There you go. STL has lost to NFL and NBA teams. No reason an MLB team can't leave. Nothing is truly sacred. That's from Deep Voice, dude. And we appreciate that. I would be stunned if Major League ownership and leadership would ever allow the Cardinals to leave St. Louis, because they know what St. Louis is capable of in terms of drawing fans. I would say that there would be a much greater likelihood if somebody wanted to buy in to move a franchise. For example, the Twins are for sale now. The Twins don't have the history of drawing fans that St. Louis does. Cincinnati, I would think, would be much more likely. They've been reticent. They have not allowed Tampa Bay to move. Tampa Bay has asked to move, and they wouldn't allow Tampa Bay to move. I would think the Rays would move before St. Louis. I would think the Pirates would move before the Cardinals would. I would think that the Royals would move before the Cardinals would. I would think that the Guardians would move before the Cardinals would. I think that you'd have to go down a pretty long list of teams before you get to one that owners would say, I'm going to vote for the Cardinals to move.
And in this conversation, I think Eric Cleveland actually drills down to the reality of, if you want to talk about the Cardinals and moving, the actual discussion that we need to start having about what's going to happen 10, 20, 40 years from now in this city, specifically when I say the word this city, is the Cardinals playing again, the movement is, do the Cardinals move out of downtown?
Well,
that is the only real conversation. It is a large conversation with a huge amount of impact on the area, but that's the real conversation in the next 20 years about the Cardinals and moving somewhere.
Well, and you're about to hire a mayor who doesn't appear to understand the value of sports in a community, right?
Kara, not a big fan?
She has been stridently against helping, whether it was upgrading the Enterprise Center or helping the Rams stay in St. Louis. She's been stridently against that.
What event that is coming to Enterprise Center literally like this month is a good argument for why they should, improve it?
Oh, the Frozen Four.
Okay.
Bringing people.
Okay.
She just doesn't.
So it immediately happened. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
And I'm not saying that she's wrong. She just doesn't appear to understand the economic value of having teams in your town and helping those teams thrive and succeed.
Barry 7676, who had a follow up because we got started on this because of his comment. He said, we are in very hard financial times. It was a very bad look. I'm just saying, you hear a lot of fans saying this is true or not. They are horrible at PR. And then he followed that up with the one I just had up there, which was, keep denying there's a public relations problem. It'll be very red bushing them. I'm not arguing that there's a public relations problem. I think they're not great at communicating, but I think that is more of the baseball communications from John Mozeliak have been an issue. Mm-hmm. And I think you're not going to like hearing from the owner when financials are bad, but I think it's good for fans to hear from the owners in those situations. Yeah, they're not going to open the books like the Braves did, because there were a lot of financial reasons why the Braves became a public company, and that none of that's going to come into this conversation with the Cardinals. So you're not going to see the books. I understand why they don't want to open the books, but any kind of actual freedom of conversation about the realities that Bill DeWitt III has gone into, and he went into them last year at spring training. He did a good job going into them this year in spring training about the future of the Cardinals and Major League Baseball financials. That honesty is good, and I think that getting caught up in the specific rhetoric from a guy like Bill DeWitt III is understandable, but I think I'm just trying to tell you it's a waste of time, and you need to be focusing on a different aspect of this conversation.
And the bottom line here, I know people are upset today. The Cardinals lost last night. The crowds are small. People are trying to justify the Cardinals being small, but there's an old adage in sports that goes like this: winning solves everything. And if the Cardinals do surprise and they wind up winning 88 games and wind up in the playoffs, that will solve everything. Everything.
Yeah. It would. And there are ancillary things. We talked about the crime early. We got a lot of comments on that. That also needs to be solved. But like you said, more money getting poured into downtown wouldn't be a bad thing for those kind of conversations. And as we hit crime, I think that's a good time to hit eject on this conversation to move on to one much more positive, which people have been talking about in the chat, which is Jeremy Rutherford has confirmed what a lot of the national people were speculating about yesterday, which is whether or not Jimmy Snuggerud would be making his debut.
Snuggy.
He is officially in the lineup. The Blues app has actually gotten to the point where they're listing him now in the lineup. Jeremy Rutherford says he's in the lineup. Number 21, Jimmy Snuggerud, will be making his debut tonight for the St. Louis Blues as they go up against the Detroit Red Wings as they go for number 10 straight. Obviously, number 21 for Snuggy. That's going to look good, Randy.
Yeah,
We're big
better,
number
yeah,
jersey
yeah.
people here on the Randy Karraker Show, featuring Brooke Grimsley, who's out today. I'm Matt Rocchio. We're very big number people, jersey people here. So number 21, we approve.
100%. Yeah, that's a good number for him.
And so how do you see number 21 impacting number 10, if you will, for the Blues as they go for number 10 straight?
Yeah, I think that he will score a goal. And as a matter of fact, I think you should go to DraftKings, pick 6, because Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. But I thought it was interesting with Jim Montgomery's meeting with the media yesterday that he was effusive in praise about Snuggerud's abilities, and especially on the power play. I could see him getting some minutes tonight. I mean, he just played last Saturday, right? Or Friday night. Friday night was when, maybe it was Thursday. But anyway, he's played recently. He's in great shape. He's ready to give him some minutes. I kind of feel bad for Matthew Joseph, but I'll be intrigued to see what we do see from Jimmy Snuggerud tonight. And I do approve of number 21.
Jeff Katubi says 21 is a good number, better than the 59s and 67s. I don't know why it won't let me put up Jeff's chat. He's saying it's a good one. There it is. 59s and 67s these kids normally get stuck with because he's going to be a star. Do you have any hard opinions on the line you would like to see Jimmy Snuggerud on?
I like that they're pairing him up with Bolduc. I think
Yeah.
the Sundqvist Bolduc Snuggerud line is interesting. I don't think that you can take apart one of the top two lines. So I think that he's not a fourth line guy. I don't know what his 200-foot game looks like, but he's too skilled to be a fourth line guy. So I think he's a perfect fit right now. And I think playing with Zach Bolduc, it's amazing that we're saying this, isn't it? On April, and it's not April Fool's, on April 1st of 2025. But I don't know that they could do better than having him playing with the group that they have right now with Zach Bolduc at his other wing.
Sandwich Man, I love it. Rotate Snugs and Dvorsky in the lineup and give other guys a bit of rest. This will benefit us for the playoffs. And then you also got to think the long run getting these guys involved. I love the move. Waterboy, is Snugs on the roster next year automatically? I don't know. Are you asking it contractually, or are you asking just like, is he in the top 12 forwards next year? I think that's the point of these last 7 games, is that he can play maybe not all 7 of them, maybe depending on seeding and things like that. He plays like 5 of them, but he's below the limit still. And
I don't want him playing against Colorado on Saturday. I'm fine tonight. I'm fine against Pittsburgh. But I don't want him playing against the good teams. But there's tremendous value in A, getting into the game tonight and another game or two, but B, practicing, getting to know Jim Montgomery, getting to know the leadership like Brenden Schaeffer of this team, the veteran defenseman that they have, starting to travel and understand NHL travel and the grind. You know, in college hockey, they play on weekends and they aren't playing 3 and 4 like the Blues have had to do. And they don't have to play every other night like the Blues will have to do in the playoffs. So just getting used to that schedule will really benefit Jimmy Snuggerud.
Also, I want somebody to ask him after how many games he does play. I can't imagine how different it is if you're a rookie and you play your first 4 or 5 games in October, and then you got to go down to the minors and adjust your game based on those 4 or 5 games you saw. The ability to get thrown into the churn, see the NHL speed, and now you have the entire offseason to go, no. I have so much work to do because that is faster than I thought it was going to be. That's more physical than I thought it was going to be. That is more X than I thought it was going to be. And now Snuggerud, instead of having to play at the minors and adjust those things and go right down in a level of talent, now he gets to take this absolute run through the fire and go immediately into an offseason and say, these are the things I have to do because that was more X than I expected. And I really, really like that attitude. I just, you don't see players get that chance very often, but I really think that's the best option for a young player like this to get a run of games at the end of the season.
100%. I don't think it could have been a better situation under the circumstances for a guy like Snuggerud. And the only thing better would have been, from my perspective, but not his, obviously, I would have liked to have seen him here last year, because generally it takes a couple of years for a young player to really become an impact player at this level. We saw that with Robert Thomas. We saw that with Jordan Kyrou. We're seeing it with Bolduc now, who's been here for a calendar year. It takes a little while for a player to reach impact level, but at least Snuggerud is here, and he's started that clock now to become an impact guy. By the way, here are the lines for tonight. Thomas between Neighbors and Booch, and then Shen with Kyrou and Holloway, Sonny between Snuggerud and Bolduc, and then Faxa with Walker and Toropchenko, and then Dvorsky, Joseph, and Texier are probably going to be the group that sits out tonight. Broberg with Falk, Fowler and Letty, and Ryan Suter with Tyler Tucker still for the Blues. So that's according to our friend Matthew DeFranks from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STLtoday.com.
I like that. We got some comments here. Eric Cleveland, any issues changing out players on a winning streak? Crash Davis says you don't mess with a winning streak. Randy.
Yeah, we mentioned that this morning on the TV show. Yeah, you don't blank with a winning streak. You're right. But yesterday, Jim Montgomery was asked about that and said, no, if I can get our goal is to get better players into the lineup. And so we want to see if he's a better player. And that's fine. I just don't like messing with the. He did say, by the way, Monty said, yeah, you do have to concern yourself with the chemistry, but at the end of the day, it's the talent of the player.
This could be Ben next season. Keep the top two lines and then use Snugs, Dvorsky, Bolduc as the third line, Sline, Sonny to the fourth line. That seems like a pretty good option there. Number one Blues fan wants a kids line in the third line next season. This season, we're still going for the cup, and I want to see Sonny still there. I think people love the idea of that kids line, kind of like they had back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's turn to, I don't really follow hockey, but heard his name a lot lately. What would a Cardinals comp be to help understand expectations? Ooh, that's a good one. I would put it more towards probably. I mean, is it Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker levels? We were talking about them making their debut in spring.
Not Walker.
More is it a Gorman level?
First round draft choice. Yeah, I would say that a Gorman level. I think that's pretty safe. That's not a bad call. Or maybe
Eric Cleveland says JJ Weatherholt.
See, Weatherholt, I don't know that Snuggerud is going to be a superstar. They expect Weatherholt to be a superstar. Okay. Maybe Michael McGreevy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like
First round draft choice, good player, but, and maybe Snuggerud will become that guy, but I don't expect him to be much more than at least the projections are that he'll be a nice player, but he's not going to be a 40-goal guy, maybe a 25 to 30-goal guy. So I have no problem with Michael McGreevy, middle of the line starting pitcher.
Okay. And then Croggy Hater says Snugs is plus 400 to score. Do we like it?
I like it. Yeah, I do.
Am I going to add that you might have to add that to our pick six.
In fact, when I put together my little parlay this morning, Snuggy wasn't even on the, they didn't have him.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't even up yet. So I'd play that plus 400. Yeah, absolutely.
Ellipsis 150. I'm getting my wife a Blues jersey. She told me the other day she wants a Dvorsky.
Terrible. Oh, that's pretty
terrible.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's Bubs. It's interesting to see how one loss can have people worried about the Cardinals again. This winning streak is broken tonight or later this week. Do you think it will be a similar reaction? No, absolutely not. That's because somehow there has been a left brain, right brain split for people who are both Cardinals and Blues fans, and I can attribute that only to the a lobotomy by Doug Armstrong over the last few years on their brain and their expectations on what a GM does.
Yeah. It's but hey, the Cardinals were not going to go 162-0. I don't think they were. Right.
Well, I guess now we'll never know.
Yeah, and you're right. But we are at the end of the day, and this isn't 100% across the board, but we do live in a society that seems to thrive on negativity, and they enjoy reacting to losses and chaos rather than just rolling along. And I always tell this story. It's fun, and because it's not new. Even the internet and social media didn't cause this negativity. The first year I was doing open line stuff was 1985. Cardinals won 101 games, had a really good team, and I would occasionally do a post-game open line. And we had Vince Coleman on the show about his interview with Art Holliday, where he said, Vince Coleman, All-Star, Willie McGee, All-Star, Andy Van Slyke, All-Star, Terry Pendleton, All-Star, Ozzie Smith, Tommy Hurt, Jack Clark. The only guy who wasn't playing like an All-Star on that team was the catcher, Darryl Porter. When I was doing post-game open line, guess who we heard most about?
It's not like Darryl Porter did anything.
Yeah, Darryl Porter was they had 8 All-Stars, including John Tudor or Joaquin Andor. And the one that everybody wanted to talk about was the guy who wasn't an All-Star.
Well, I mean,
yeah. Hey, do you think if Snuggy plays well, he could replace Joseph in the everyday lineup for the playoffs? Could happen. And the Blues under Craig Berube, he had no problem putting Sammy Blais in during the playoffs, and then they would put Sanford, meet up with me, Sanford. They put him in the lineup now and then. So I would not be surprised if there's a day where you've got injuries and you've got people that are worn down, you got a little fatigue, and Snuggy finds his way into the lineup. Dvorsky too.
For the playoffs?
A game here, game there, plug him in. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
energy guy.
It's just tricky when a guy's best attribute is just scoring. Like Sammy Blais is different. Like, I mean, one of his best attributes was he just fires a 185-pound body like a missile into people. Like I don't want Jimmy Snuggerud doing that in any way, shape, or form. And so it's just such a different.
But here, how about this?
It's a different style, and it's a different sport. And
it is. Yeah,
you were talking about a guy who's going to get 7 games of regular season in the NHL. I just talked about how good it is for him to have a whole offseason to process that and work on it. I don't think it's good for Jimmy Snuggerud to face playoff hockey after only having 7 games of regular season hockey in his career. Because if it is, as everyone tells us, a completely different sport, God, that is talking about like from the oil into from the pot into the fire, whatever the hell the phrase is. That's insane.
Uncle Randy's got some for you then. Okay,
all right.
You want to play Uncle Randy?
I'll play Uncle Randy on this one here. Crockett Hater says someone needs some advice from Uncle Randy, so I'm about to get some.
Okay, here we go.
It's going to be some Hall of Famer who dominated, isn't it?
1970-71.
Oh, damn it.
Yep. A goalie by the name of Ken Dryden. Never heard of him?
Goalies are different. Binnington proved that.
He played 6 games at the NHL level.
Right. You got me. I was thinking in my head goalies are different because we would see with Berube, he would give like Allen again. He gave like Allen like 1 game in the middle of the playoffs just to give Binnington a day off, even though Binnington was obviously running hot. But goalies are a completely different kettle of, completely different thing.
Yeah, they are. You're right.
That's all I'm saying.
I've got another.
But then again, it also, here's the thing. What if Snuggy looks so good these next 7 games? What if he is flying around hitting people? What if the speed of the game and the physicality of the game aren't too much for him? Well, then you do maybe give him a game in the playoffs and see if he can take that jump up. Didn't Cole Makar debut during the playoffs for Colorado? Did he really?
He may have.
I said Cole. Sorry, Kale.
There's there was a winger for the Washington Capitals. I guess he played more games. 48 games for John Druce in 89-90.
That's just,
48 games, 8 goals, 3 assists, 11 points. Gets to the playoffs, 89-90, 14 goals, 3 assists.
Okay, no. That's a great call by the chatter there. Cale Makar came in 18-19 and played 10 games for Colorado in the playoffs after not playing a single game in the regular season.
But then they ruined him by playing him in the playoffs like that.
That's nuts. That's a great call. I had no idea. Yeah, he played 57 games the next year and won the offensive rookie of the year. No big deal or anything.
By the way,
what? Yep. Again, if you think he's that level of player, yeah, sure, throw him in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is, but that's a great point by Ellipsis 150.
Well done. I did not finish, by the way, the Ken Dryden story.
Sorry.
So 6 games in 1970-71 in the regular season for the Philadelphia Flyers. He did win all 6, by the way. Playoff start, he played 6 in the regular season. He goes 20-12 and leads the Canadians to the Stanley Cup and wins the Connie Smythe after playing 6 regular season games. He plays 20 games in the playoffs. Sorry, he went 12-8, wins the Stanley Cup and wins the playoff MVP after playing 6 regular season games.
That's nuts.
Ken Dryden. So now you know via Uncle Randy.
I gotta dive into this.
It's fun.
Cale Makar story because I don't remember this at all. This is fascinating. Oh, it was against his hometown Calgary Flames too. That's nuts. All right, we're gonna move on to our final little story of the day.
By the way, did you know that I'm going to be on the Cardinals Hub 365 post game tonight after the Cardinals play?
You're gonna be on the Cardinals Hub
Angels?
365 post game,
and we've got daily content right here on Sports Hub 365, Sports Hub STL with the Sports Hub Cards Hub 365 show, powered by Gray Bar. Comes up at 3 o'clock today, the pregame, and then on the Sports Hub STL postgame show on YouTube. You can also get the show on demand from YouTube following the live broadcast, as well as on Apple, Spotify, or any other major podcast outlet. STL, Sports Hub STL, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
We were talking about the Cardinals earlier on in the show. People were complaining about the concession stand. There were some fans in there saying that the concession stand prices have gone up. Well, if you are a football fan in Carolina, you might not have to worry about that anymore. Did you see this story coming out of the Chanticleers of coastal Carolina? They put a release out yesterday. They're introducing the CCU kickoff meal deal. Every football game, every fan, always free.
Oh, hey.
Reading now from their press release, Coastal Carolina Athletics will partner with concessionaire Aramark to allow fans to eat free at Chanticleer's football games inside Brooks Stadium this fall. Chance Miller, Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics and University Recreation, announced Monday. Our fans are the heartbeat of Teal Nation, and we're always looking for ways to evaluate their game day experience. With the CCU kickoff meal deal, we're excited to offer free concessions this fall as a way to say thank you to the energy, passion, and support they brings to Brooks Stadiums every year. This is unbelievable.
Do we know what the food is?
Yeah, no. This is insane, Randy. Ticket purchasing patrons visiting the concession stands will be able to acquire 4 items per concession stand visit from a selection of hot dogs, nachos, popcorn, and fountain drinks. Okay. There is no limit to the number of in-game visits, but fans must scan each trip through the line with a soon-to-be-launched Coastal Carolina Athletics app. Specialty food from outside vendors, and alcoholic beverages will remain available for fans to purchase. Locations, menus, new items, and student concessions information will be announced closer to the start of the season. But if you have a ticket, unlimited visits, and you get 4 items per visit: hot dogs, nachos, popcorns, fountain drinks. If you live within like an hour and a half to 2 hour drive of Coastal Carolina and you have kids who love football, how are you not buying a season ticket?
Oh, you have to.
That's incredible. I mean, the food alone. I mean, in 3 or 4 trips, your kids filling up on nachos, hot dogs, and popcorn.
The Blues did that in 2007.
That's genius.
The Blues had free food, multiple free food days because nobody was coming to the games. So they gave away free food, same menu, and you could go back as much as you wanted and load up on free food. It was awesome. It was a brilliant move. And they sold a lot of tickets for those games. I took advantage. I partook. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fantastic way to do it. I love that idea. They did a good video where the guy walks up and he's like, I can get all this just for free. And he walks away and he's so happy. Like, that's a fantastic thing. It's like we talked about earlier. It's about making these things easier for families. And, these big sports, and obviously Coastal Carolina is not, the biggest team in the world. They are an impossibly fun team to play on College Football 25. Great jerseys, fun little conference to run things in. And apparently now I have another reason to be a Chanticleers fan, other than the fact that they're named the Chanticleers, which is also
a great name.
One of the best names in college sports. But yeah, free food. I love everything about this. Makes sports more accessible for fans and especially for families. Because I remember as a kid, going to Rams games. The first Rams game I ever went to, I'll never forget it. It was 2002. Rams were not getting off to a very good start after losing the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
And it was it was either fourth or fifth game of the season. They won their first game, and it was against the Oakland Raiders.
And
I remember
right?
I remember I got a hot dog, and I got that hot dog, and I made that hot dog last. I made that hot dog last. And if I just could have just kept on going and getting more hot dogs, first of all, there's a reason I was a fat child, so that would not have been helped. But I would have been very happy there with the second hot dog in that Rams game. And so I love this. All for it. I hope more people do it, even if it just comes to be like, you don't have to do free fans for everyone, because there's no reason for a 33-year-old like me to need to eat 9 hot dogs during a game.
There is.
But keep doing these free food things for kids under 12, or 15 and under. Eat for free. I love that kind of stuff.
How many innings in a baseball game?
9.
9 hot dogs.
I could never. The 9x9 thing for me is I could listen. I could never do 9 beers anymore.
Oh wow.
9 beers in a 3. Games are too short now. I could eat 9 hot dogs in 2.5 hours, but 9 hot dogs on top of 9 beers. Yeah. Oh man, there's no way I'm making it without 9 naps.
So the Blues did this in 06, 07, and in 07, 08. And Dave Checketts, the then owner of the Blues, said, quote, "As we continue to rebuild this franchise, it remains important for us to embrace our wonderful fans. Given the response and success from last year's game, it was clear that not only should we do it again this year, but, Tom Stillman, it should become a St. Louis Blues tradition each and every season. Free food days."
Oh, well, that didn't.
Fans were able to have hot dogs, chicken fingers, chips, popcorn, peanuts, soft drinks, and water from the moment the gates opened, an hour before the game until the end of the second intermission. Those were the days.
And see, that's different too,
we didn't have a
because
cup though.
At a hockey game, that's even better, because those intermissions are too long, in my opinion. And so if I had a good reason to stand in a long line for a concession stand, which is I'm about to get free food, I'd stand in that concession stand line both intermissions. Totally. That'd be completely worth it. The game obviously gets a little bit shorter when you're snacking the entire time. Props to Coastal Carolina. Shout out to the Blues.
Well,
apparently now you guys are not breaking even every year. You guys are apparently, not flush with cash, but let's get this involved a little more. Let's get some free food nights. And again, not for me. I understand. I don't need free food. I'm in the media and I need to lose weight anyhow. But 15 years old and under, free. Let's make the hot dogs, nachos, and popcorns thing like a regular thing, that it's cheap, if not free, for families to feed their kids, because that's always the biggest hurdle in my experience. When I was growing up, my parents had 3 kids and they loved going to Cardinals baseball games. If they could get Blues tickets, we loved going to a Blues game, but that was always a hurdle. And so I love that there isn't a hurdle.
Great response from you guys. Bubs, 9 beers would kill me regardless of hot dog intake. I'm with you there. Thomas Gonzalez, quote, "You made that hot dog last," unquote.
I don't know why you're trying to make that weird. What are you talking about? I mean, I mean, first of all, you make sure get everything you can on the hot dog that isn't extra money. So you get all your soppins and your fixins, and then you take a bite and you let you let it marinate there for a little bit, and you watch some football. You grab the binoculars from your dad. You take a turn looking at the cheerleaders. The just regular football watching stuff when you're in the 400 level of the Edward Jones Dome. People, I don't know how this will surprise anybody.
Okay, ellipsis 150.
Yeah, this is bad.
No, it's not. So on opening day, for the media, behind where we watch the game, there's a little lounge, and you can get hot dogs, you can get nachos, you can get, on opening day, you could get M&Ms, peanut and regular.
Ooh.
And I partook, of course. On Sunday, when I was at the game, the M&Ms were gone, and they had replaced the M&Ms with popcorn. And I didn't take any popcorn. I did not partake. So ellipsis,
popcorn?
Your take, hot take, popcorn is terrible and is highly overrated. It's not wrong.
What about cheddar popcorn?
No, even worse.
What about caramel corn?
No. Now, will I do?
You don't like Cracker Jacks? Holy crap!
Well, here's the thing. I
was not expecting Randy Karraker of all people to not be a Cracker Jacks
fan. We used to have
a
store here that was great, and the owner retired. It was called Poptions. It was where the Schneidhorst thing is. There's a Fidelity over there. There's a Starbucks at I think Lindbergh and Clayton. And Poptions popcorn was unbelievable. And he had chocolate in it, and chocolate chips and stuff. It was awesome. That was good popcorn. But I don't know that. And by the way, heavily buttered popcorn at a movie theater is fine too. But otherwise, I'm not a popcorn guy. Heavily buttered.
I'm very confused about your popcorn. So it just has to be heavily buttered.
Yeah,
popcorn.
heavily buttered. Yeah.
So if it's lightly buttered,
Like, you know the thing where you
Yeah.
pump,
Just,
pump, pump? It's like 20 pumps.
oh my God, that's an excessive amount of butter. But you don't like Cracker Jacks.
I can live without them. Would I ever buy Cracker Jacks? No.
Wow.
I'm not a Cracker Jack guy. No, I'm not.
Again, for me, just talking about like how I went to games as a kid. Park far away as you're walking. Cracker Jacks and peanut
Sure,
sellers,
yeah.
always a box of Cracker Jacks. Now, here's my one problem with growing up in the 90s. I wish I would have grown up in an era where Cracker Jacks prizes meant something, because they were completely useless when I was a kid. Nothing about the prize in a
Yeah.
Cracker Jack
In
box
the
was
70s, they were
entertaining
great.
me
Yeah, they
in
were
the
great.
90s. Nothing.
I got Cracker
Not a
Jacks
chance.
for the prizes when I was growing up.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Bubs, those tins of popcorn from the store during Christmas, mixing the caramel and cheddar popcorn was the best. See, I'm not a cheddar popcorn guy. I'm not a cheese popcorn guy, nor
I love caramel corn.
caramel really. And I don't want that mixture either. Now, the what's the one that it's Popcornopia, where they come in like little cones and they're chocolate covered. Those are good. Chocolate covered popcorn is good.
Do you like kettle corn?
I can handle it. Yeah.
I can't tell if there's actually something called Chicago popcorn or if Sandwich Man's making a Chicago hot dog joke. Either way, I'm angry at you right now.
Okay. Ask Randy how he pronounces syrup. 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 I have no problem with those that say syrup, but I say syrup.
How'd you say caramel? How'd you say caramel? You say caramel or caramel?
I think I might have said caramel. Caramel.
Who the hell says caramel? No one says caramel in this country. Syrup? You say syrup?
I say syrup. Yeah. It's easy and I'm lazy.
I grew up saying quarter wrong. It happens. Thomas Gonzalez says eat before the game. Listen, you're not wrong. You're 100% right. Explain that to 3 kids for 9 innings of a 90s baseball game when they're going 3.5 hours long.
Yeah. Doovie, can we please change the subject to sports? Who cares about popcorn? Okay. Well, number one, this was overarching, but you do need to know about the Battlehawks, who open up their season, their home season, on Sunday at the Dome. Battlehawks fans, be sure to catch Battlehawks Hub Weekly, now available on the Sports Hub STL YouTube page with Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Straughter as they get you set for the season opener at home. Battlehawks coverage on Sports Hub STL is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. With the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box, you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99, only at Lee's Famous for Chicken. So tonight's a doubleheader night, 2 TV night. And by the way, the Blues are on Big FanDuel, and the Cardinals relegated to FanDuel Plus tonight. But both games on about the same time, so it's a 2 TV night. And I think I'm going to join Joe Roderick on the Cardinal postgame show here on Sports Hub STL, Cards Hub 365 after the game.
And man, I really want that Battlehawks box.
So
I know we have a texter who's mad at us for only talking about food.
Well, now we got
Wilson,
a picture
do
of food.
me a favor, just take down the Battlehawks box. I can't keep talking about it. I don't want to.
Available for $8.99 at Lee's Chicken. Sunday evening, Randy, 5:30 on FS1. Thank you, Jeff Katubi, with the bulletin, apparently official, about the Battlehawks start time. So at the Dome, you can be there at 5:30 on Sunday, and you can watch it on FS1. And hopefully we'll have a good crowd. Hopefully we'll get 35, 40,000. We really haven't heard much about it. We had Coach Becht on last week, and I know that Luke and Judy are doing a great job of promoting the Battlehawks, and Brian Stull, their PR man, is sensational, but they just haven't really done they haven't marketed much themselves. They've gotten word out, but I want to see more Battlehawks stuff, and I want to see us more engaged in the Battlehawks.
Sunday versus the Brahmas. I like the two best fan bases. Yeah, they have to, because we're the 2 best fan bases in the entire league, mainly because they're the 2 fan bases that don't have the pro teams next to them, which makes a lot of sense to me. So Brahmas and Battlehawks, not only the 2 best fan bases, arguably probably the 2 best teams, even if you want to go back to the previous XFL extensions of both those franchises. So I think it's going to be a good game. Obviously, Battlehawks are riding high. They figured out the quarterback. They control the game. The defense, in my opinion, one of the best parts about Battlehawks football has been the defense has always been forcing turnovers, and we saw that again, and I absolutely love that about them. And so, go Battlehawks. Hope we get a big win, and grab that Battlehawks box, because I know there's some textures who don't like it, but potato wedges are elite. Deal with it.
Caw is the law. Great job filling in for the Brookster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
And
Randy.
Brookie will be back tomorrow. She had a doctor's appointment today. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I'm going to miss tomorrow's show. But I will be back. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so I'll be back on Thursday.
Yeah, they got to watch me twice.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's cool. No, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker Wilson has been our producer, audio, video engineer, and we thank you for engaging in the show, being part of the chat, and watching and listening. And we'll all be back with you tomorrow at 10 here on Sports Hub STL. I'll see you tonight, by the way, on the Cardinal Postgame Show.